All right, my name is Seghers. I was born in Illinois. I grew up in Las Vegas. My mom moved us out there when we were 3. I moved out here in 2002. I started tattooing shortly before that, and that's what I do now. I tattoo, and now I'm running for city council.
Rich in game, fortune, hall of fame, clean without a stain. Ain't no names, just my alias. Under radar shit can be called.
I was in Illinois till my mom moved us to Vegas when I was 3. It was just my mom. I didn't know my dad. I didn't know my dad's name until just, a few years ago. So I grew up with a single mother, and then I have a little sister. So we grew up together. She didn't know her dad, and I didn't know my dad. You grow older now and you realize how hard that was, now having kids. I grew up playing sports, everything, had some good friends, started getting into trouble as I got into my teens. I grew up in East Las Vegas, which is not the best place to grow up. We did move around a lot, switching schools, being around different people and everything else. Got into freshman year of high school, got kicked out of high school. Just started getting in trouble. Then sophomore year, I ended up going to prison. What I was doing just kept escalating, kept getting in trouble. Wasn't, had no direction, had nothing going on. Sports wasn't an option anymore because my grades weren't good enough. And so I went to prison. I went to jail on my 17th birthday. They transferred me to county jail. I went to prison, and that was the eye-opener. You start seeing, you show up and you get on the yard, and I remember sitting there about a week in the intake, and the lights went out, the power went out, and you just started to sound like a war zone. It sounded like they were throwing grenades, and they were throwing percussion grenades, and they were shooting at people because the lights were out and people weren't going back to their units. And that's when things got real. It got really real. When I was in county jail, they had me up in the top floor in Vegas, and I was up there with killers. I was up there with people that were down on death row, that were fighting to get off. Going through the appeal process. I was 60 years old, and I still was just going through the motions. You still think you're going to get out, or maybe you are. You're not really prepared, and then I got sentenced. I thought I was going to get out. I thought I was going to get out probation. The judge read my sentence, and I said, well, what does that mean? Because the way they, the legal terms and everything, you don't really understand it. Right. And so that means you're going to prison.
You were a kid.
I was a kid, man.
And
I was a kid.
That mind change.
It was
survival in prison. Like how were you able to adapt into something like that?
Well, early on, there was an Indian guy. His name was Billy, and you could tell just one of those people. You're like, all right, but he was cool, and he let me borrow some magazines, and then we would always joke, but he would still be very, like, when I would joke with him, he would kind of, you might not want to joke like that, and I would say, okay, and he let me borrow some magazines one day, and I guess I caught him on a bad day, and he said, hey man, where's my magazines at? And I was just joking, and I said, I'll get them to you when I'm done. And he goes, no, you'll go get them right now. And I was like, wait, I didn't realize what was happening. And we were walking over, and he was like, hey man, you can't do that. I'm your friend. If it was somebody else, then then what would happen? We're talking about magazines. And I said, dude, I didn't know, and I think I said, man, just chill out. And we were walking side by side, and he just punched me in my nose. And I was like, what is going on? So right then I realized, all right, I need to pay attention. And it might not be right, but hey, this is the way this world works. I got out of prison, and I had a friend suggest tattooing to me. I had gotten some prison tattoos, but I didn't know anything about tattooing. But I knew that if I could learn how to tattoo, then I wanted to be the best, whatever that meant. Then you learn that there's a lot that goes into it. You start learning about history. You learn about the people that came before you. That kind of, you're you're saying I'm just doing my own thing. Well, you can't just do your own thing when you're tattooing people. You know, there's a specific way that things need to go into the skin.
Right.
It's not like, well, I'm just doing my own thing. I'm just singing these songs. People like it or they don't. Well, okay, but that's not a permanent thing that you're putting into somebody. You can't experiment. I mean, if your friend wants to experiment, then cool. But people that are just coming in, you can't just, oh, all right, cool, I get to try this out. I moved out here. I met Sean Worcott, who owns Empire Tattoo over here. I had actually asked him for an apprenticeship when I first started tattooing, and he shot me down. And he said, nope, get out of here. And kind of laughed. But that's just Sean. A couple years later, he called me and said, hey, man, you want to come work for me out here? And I was like, yeah, I'll come out and do a guest, spot. And I was very proud of that. I was very proud that Sean had called me. Man, I have a great deal of respect for this man. And I still do, you know. And so I came out, and a couple of the guys that were over there, I came out to guest spots, went back to Vegas, you know, started hanging around Redlands, and I was like, man, this is cool. This is a cool place. We don't have buildings like this in Vegas. You know, we don't have, you know, just the people that you can go out and you just see people and they're cool.
Yeah.
And I never experienced that in my life, never. And it was that, and then a couple of the guys ended up getting fired from there, and they were opening up another shop over here. And they just said, hey, you know, my friend Aaron that opened up Tattoo Revolution, he said, hey, Seghers, you want to come work for us? We open this shop. And I go, well, what am I going to do? You know, I got to find a place to live. He goes, you just come live with me. And I said, all right. So that was it. I went back out to Vegas, grabbed that tattoo chair that the camera's sitting on, and I had, where's my brown chair at? That chair you're sitting in.
Oh, shit.
I've had that since I started tattooing. I've had that. And I had some clothes. I had my toolbox and my trash can. I bought that trash can because I wanted something nice. And you know, that at one point in my life, that was my biggest achievement, was buying that trash can. You know, having enough money to buy a stainless steel trash can.
Yeah. That's great. Like,
you know, and then I bought a Craftsman toolbox,
you
and that was
like
it. That was it, man.
You could definitely tell you have pride in what you own. You know what I mean? Because like you said, just you have pride in buying your first stainless trash can. It brings up emotions. You know what I mean?
Well, it's crazy because, like I said, you know, you don't think about it,
yeah.
And then you start to look around, and
like your trash, like the first trash you bought is sitting in your shop.
Yeah.
So
I also went from Sean's to Corey's, and I had some drawings, and I asked just because Corey was in a magazine when I was on the bus out here that I was reading, and I was like, man, I gotta go there, and I went in, and Corey came out and talked to me. He sat down and talked to me. He didn't have to do that, you know. He could have just been like, no, we're not looking for anybody.
Right.
But he came out, talked to me, and I was just some dude with some drawings. People come in all the time, and you know, he sat down, he went through, and he said, this is, you know, hey man, this is cool, you know, keep drawing, do this. And he was very encouraging. He wasn't trying to blow smoke and say, these are the best things I've ever seen. He was just like, man, this is cool, you know, keep doing this, keep doing that. And I was like, all right. And after that, I always said I wanted to do my soft black and grays like Corey, and I wanted to do dark black and grays like this dude Paul Booth. It was all I wanted to do, was black and gray at that time. And you know, so I left, but I would always see Corey. Then I'd see him at conventions, like, oh man, I want to work. Oh, there's that dude. There's Corey, and you know, but it was always something. It was always in the back of my head, like, okay, I'm gonna go back there one day, and you know, that's like a goal.
Goal, yeah.
You know, I want to earn that man's respect. I want to earn Sean's respect. I want to earn the people that say, you know, people say all the time, well, they tell you can't do it, show them, prove them wrong. So I do, and it fuels me. It fuels me to do it. You know, again, I look back on it now. You know, single mom, moving all the time, switching schools, no dad, out of high school as a freshman, prison at 17. I'm not supposed to be here.
Right.
You know, I'm not supposed to be here. And so, you know, when you set goals, you know, for me, if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I'm gonna do it.
What is your biggest fear about getting into this political? I don't know shit about politics, but like.
Tell me about it. I had no political aspirations. I've always been a. I don't want to sound arrogant and say I've always been a leader, but I've never been a follower. Mm-hmm. I've always liked to surround myself with other people that are motivated. So if you want to say, I surround myself with leaders. Mm. I don't lead this shop. I pay the bills, and you know, maybe I lead by example, because of course as an owner, if you're lagging, then you know. But the crew that's here are people that I know if I'm not here, then everything's cool. You know, so opening, you know, again, going from 454, sorry, this gets into this political thing, going from 454 and working down there, and then I was doing appointments up here. I worked at 454 for 5 years. My good friend Brad allowed me to work there for the weekends. Busy, always busy. During the recession, it was always busy. And but my wife was pregnant with my son. She had our daughter. She was still holding it down. You know, I'd go down there every weekend, no problem. And then she was pregnant with our son, and I was like, I have to lock something down in Redlands. I had to start thinking about where am I gonna be when I'm 50? Mm. And you know, my wife's family, everybody's been born at the hospital. They walked across the street from the house that her grandparents built, that her parents still live in 60-something years ago. They've all went to the same elementary, junior high, and high school. Again, I don't know anything about that kind of life. And you know, parents have been married for over 30 years. Grandparents have been, you know, her grandpa's 93. Grandma just passed away. They were married for 60-something years, you know. World War II veteran, Korean War. This man could hop up on the ceiling if his doctor would allow it. If we'd allow it, he could do it. It's crazy. But yeah, so I knew I needed to lock it down. So I started looking for places around Redlands. And I knew the zoning. I did the research for the zoning, and I knew where I could open up a shop. So I'd go and I'd see a spot that was for lease. I'd call them up. Hey, I would like to look at your building. I'd like to, you know, open up a business there. Mm-hmm. And I would go and I'd talk to them, and they'd be all about it. And they go, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Oh, a tattoo shop." And they were like, "Oh," and okay, well, we'll call you. I wouldn't hear from them. And
bakery.
so I wouldn't hear from them, and then I'd see that it was still for lease. So I call them a few weeks later, and they go, "Oh, it's rented. That spot's rented. It already got rented. Sorry about that." And then you know, another month would go by, and I'd see the same thing. Or I'd look at other locations, and then you know, I'd go to the city and say, "Hey, I found a spot." The landlord would be cool. "Hey, I got a spot. The landlord's cool. It's zoned." And then they'd go, "Oh, that's condemned." And I'd go, "Well, what do you mean it's condemned?" That spot is condemned. At the time, I didn't know much about exactly what that meant. And I was like, "Oh, okay. So I can't move there?" "No, you can't. It's going to be destroyed." Those buildings are still sitting there right now. And, you know, so in the meantime, I'm checking out spots. I got people hanging up on me, just literally, "Oh, yeah, what do you want to do?" "Oh, a tattoo shop." And hang up on me. And so then I'd have my wife call. And and right after, you know, the day before they told me it was rented, my wife would call. "Hey, how you doing? I saw your for lead. I want to check it out. I'm thinking about opening a business." "Oh yeah, sure. Come on over. Meet up. We'll meet you there at 3. And then I'd go over there. So then we'd go over there, and I was like, "All right." And we go talk to them, and we get going. And they're like, "Oh yeah, cool. What do you guys want to do?" And it'd be like, "Oh, I'm the one that called about the tattoo shop." And then they're just, "Oh no. Nope." And but I saw this spot, or I saw the spot over here was for lease. This is the only place. All the other shops are on the other side. Mm-hmm. And there was a building over here, and I stopped and I asked Chuck, who used to own the property, about the spot. He said, "Oh, Remax is moving in over there. That'd be cool though, you know, if you open up a tattoo shop. Hey, that'd be perfect." I said, "All right, well, I'm just going to keep checking. I'm going to keep driving around, and I'll keep coming back." So I drove around for 4 years trying to open up a tattoo shop. Look at it however you want. Provide for my family. Make sure that my family's taken care of. Make sure that I'm secure. You know, be a you know, positive member of the community. You know, open up a small business. Mm-hmm. And that was it. That was all I wanted to do. And it just wasn't happening. These people were not having it. I would drive around. My daughter was a couple years old, and we went out and got beef jerky at Green Spot, and I would literally drive around for 4 years looking for spots. Not just every once in a while. For 4 years, I was actively pursuing this.
During this 4 years, you were still working at like.
Yeah, I was working at 454, and I was doing appointments at another shop, and drove by here and it said for lease, and my daughter was asleep in the car. I came in, and I talked to Chuck, who used to own the property, or I called. Chuck said, yeah, come meet. And so I brought my wife. I brought Tinley, my daughter. My wife's pregnant. You know, it's like, hey, we're a family. You know, like check it out. And came in and we did the same thing. Well, what do you want to do? You know, oh, cool, this is great. Oh, how long you lived here? Oh, great. What do you want to do? Art gallery, tattoo shop. And it was like, oh man. And they even said, they're like, oh. And I said, but wait. I go, look, man, I get it. I said, and I explained to them, like, this is my wife. Like, this is my wife. My wife's family's been here. I just want to open up a shop here, man. Just give me a chance. I promise. I said, I can blow smoke up your ass all day and tell you all these great things that I'm going to do. I go, I'm just asking for a chance, man. And he's like, I got to talk to everybody. And so I just call him. I said, all right, well, thank you for your time. I call him and I say, hey, Chuck, how's it going, man? Any word? I'm still checking with people. I go, hey, Chuck, if you want, I could give you a list of references. Doctors, lawyers, people that you know, business owners, whoever, you know, you name it, man. And you know, I've got it. And he's like, all right, I'll get back to you. Then a couple days later, I say, hey, Chuck, I don't even need to put a sign out front. I don't even need to put a sign out front, man. My clientele is coming either way. And you know, I was like, it's cool. There's not gonna be people out smoking. You know, like I'm running, I'm doing. If people want to smoke, they can do a lap. You know, it's like, dude, just give me this chance. And then he said, all right, well, one of the tenants, he's concerned about the signs being out and everything else. And I said, all right, cool. I won't put a sign out. I'll just put the name. He's like, all right. And he was being cool, but he has to look out for his tenants. I get it. So
he gives you this chance.
So he gives me this chance.
What does the rest of the community, how do they feel about it?
So he gives me the shot, and I go, all right, because there used to be a wall here, and these are covering that up. It was a day spa, so there were 3 rooms, and this was here. That wasn't there. And I said, all right, I'm gonna open it all up. I'm gonna blow it out. And he goes, no, man. He goes, I'm gonna take a chance and give you a year, and I don't want you to change this up too much to where if we have problems and I get rid of you, I can't find another tenant. I said, no problem. And he's being honest with me. And I said, all right. And I said, well, how about this? And he's like, I don't know. So I brought my friend Chris, who was my friend April that I was referring to earlier. Her husband, they moved out here. He's a contractor. My father-in-law, that man can do anything. And my friend John Barr, we said, all right, we're going to do this. Chuck came in when they were here. And so then he met my dad. He met my father-in-law. He met my friend Chris. He met these other people that weren't tattooers, but they were smart men that, you know, it was kind of like, wait, these are your friends too? And then they laid it out. Chris said, well, we can't do that because there's this here and this here. And Chuck kind of said, you know what, man, do whatever you want. As long as these guys are here with you, and you guys got to do whatever you want. And we said, all right. So we knocked this shop out in 5 days. Now I've met a group home with kids that are, you know, boys that are ages 6 to 14. They don't have a family. They don't have parents that could take care of them properly. So they're living in a house with other people.
Yeah, I got a friend that he works at a group house.
Over here?
I'm not sure over here.
Okay.
Said, I want to say closer to Fontana.
Oh, okay.
Like he tells me the stories.
Yeah, man.
Like, man.
It's heartbreaking, dude.
Yeah.
And you know, so those are the people that. Everybody's worried about homeless. Okay, what are we doing to prevent it? You know, these are the kids. This is the next generation of homeless. If we're not careful, you know, these kids are gonna grow up hating people. What's their future like? So, you know, we've been able to go over to Orangewood. I'm just using Orangewood as an example,
Right.
because I've tried to go to other high schools, and same thing. They wouldn't really allow it.
Right.
I go over to Redlands High School. My friend Sean Rigolato, he lets me do projects with the kids. We do projects, and you know, explain the same thing. Make good life choices and things like that will happen. So we go over to Orangewood. I sit on the student site council over there. We do art projects. I bring my good friend Danny Sardano, who's also a sergeant in the police. We go talk to those kids, because a lot of them, the only time they've ever been around police has been a negative situation. You know, they've seen them, they're arresting their parents, they're taking their brothers away. They don't ever have a conversation with these police. So I go in there like this, and the kids are like, "Oh, okay, I can be that, all right." And then we start talking, and I go, and this is my friend Danny Sardano. This is my friend Esteban. You know, we bought them after school equipment so they can work out and everything else like that. And then we're able to explain to them, or I say, yeah, so the police came together. Your principal allowed us to come in. The counselors allow us to come in. Business owners are supporting this. So when you get out of school, don't go destroy their bathrooms. Don't go because these are the people that are allowing us to buy these things for you. And then they start like, I never thought about that. You know, they just think these things happen. Then you start, when you're walking around town, maybe they wonder, was this a business? Maybe this is a business that helped us out. Don't go mess with that. You know, don't break that window. Don't do that thing. You never know. I never had anything to relate to when I was growing up like that. So, you know, my goal, and the same, you know, we as tattooers, we all kind of, you know, we have the same kind of background in a way. And, you know, fortunately this crew, they understand what the mission is, you know, what the goal is. And for me, it's to make sure that no kid has to go through what I went through to get to this point. If you're not consistently talking to these kids, they're gonna forget about you, man. And they're you know, they're gonna forget what you said.
Attention spans are short nowadays.
Well, yeah, and it's just gonna be another. And plus, if you can't relate to them, they're not gonna respect what you had to say. You know, so I get it. Again, I don't live their life every day, so I'm not going to act like I understand everything that they're going through. But I've got a pretty good idea. You know, people talk about being all-inclusive, but they're only being all-inclusive to the people that agree with them. It's like, no, man, it doesn't work that way. You know, you have to be open to these things, and you can't attack them. Maybe you need to have a conversation. You might not agree on one thing, but you might agree on 9 other things.
Yeah.
And then you might be able to find a common ground on that last thing that you don't agree on. You know, I don't know. I do things a certain way based on life experiences. Sometimes people think, "Wow, man, he didn't even think about that, and he did that." But it's because I've been in situations where I know where it escalates to. So I'm trying to cut it out, you know, and get rid of the unnecessary, you know, time that's wasted, you know, unnecessary money that's being spent on unnecessary things that's not having an impact. You know, I want to see things happen in the city. There hasn't been a significant change in the city, you know, for years. There hasn't been a significant change in San Bernardino for who knows how long. So in Redlands, we change things. You know, we make things better for everybody, everybody. And then, you know, maybe Highland goes, "Man, check out what Redlands is doing." And then Rialto goes, "Check out what Highland and Redlands is doing." Yeah, but we want to help everybody,
right.
You know. But if you're sending things out, you're not seeing how it's being used. You don't know where that food's going. You don't know where that money's going. You know, and it sucks because your heart is in the right place. Here, you can go to Heidi. You can say, "This is what I want to do." You can go to that group home. You can go to Dr. Turley. You know, people drop off stuff all the time. "Hey, I have this. Where can it go?" I'll take it to Brandy Daly. You know, I'll get, you know, she's taking care of the single moms program. You know, so there's so many things going on here that aren't being addressed. But people are again, you're posting articles about, "Oh, this is so sad." And you're okay, so here, guess what? That's happening right here. Let's go do something about it. Social media, Facebook. We got Brian Seghers. We got Brian Seghers for City Council. We got Instagram. We got Brian Seghers, Seghers1 on Instagram. I've got Brian Seghers Tattoo on Instagram. I've got Rendition Tattoo on Instagram. I've got 454 on Instagram. We've got Seghers for Redlands on Instagram. all the other emails are on those links also. So I mean, I check them every morning. You know, I'm checking all these pages every morning. The Seghers for Redlands one is a campaign one. You know, so it is driven to introduce myself to people. So and I interact. If people ask me a question, I interact immediately. It is there to expose this mission to as many people as possible. So don't get offended if, you know, maybe I'm not following you back or something like that. Like, it's not, I'm just trying to give people options. And besides that, anybody can come in here any day. Anybody can come in here any day and talk. You know, they don't have to get tattooed. They can come in here and talk. They can have a sandwich, come over here and talk. But yeah, that's it. Best thing to do is stop by, call, shoot me a message. I'm easily accessible.
Swivel for finesses, you never know when the devil's gonna test you. Top notch posse want the most, not the lesser. Used to keep my dope zip locked in my dresser. Got to keep my scope on swivel for finesses. You never know when the devil's gonna test you.